Good morning. My name is Steve Jones. I'm the president of Crossroads Blues Society. I'd like to welcome you to our first attempt at Blues in the Schools online edition. For those of you who don't know who Crossroads Blues Society is, we are a 501c3 nonprofit that is incorporated here in Northern Illinois. And in 2002, we decided that Blues in the Schools was going to be our main effort. Blues in the Schools is something that a lot of blues societies and musicians do around the country, and it's a loosely organized effort done by many members of the Blues Foundation around America and around the globe to promote blues music. And the reason that people do this is for two reasons. One is that blues music is the first kind of music that was invented in the United States. And two, all of the popular music we listen to today has roots in the blues. So that's pretty important. So we go around to schools and we teach kids about the blues by bringing in musicians who are good musicians and educators that can play for the kids and tell the kids, and teach kids about the blues. And we've done this now 587 times for over 90,000 students. So we're very proud of that. It doesn't cost the schools anything. We do this program for free. We raise money via our festival. The monies we raise go into our Blues in the Schools program. Our Crossroads Blues Society is staffed entirely by volunteers, and our monies that we raise for Blues in the Schools support this program and make it free for the schools. The blues come to us from not so great beginnings. The blues come to us from the rhythms and music of Africa. When the slaves were brought over from Africa, they brought with them their oral traditions, their music, their rhythm, and they were forced to work 6 days a week in the hot sun at the plantations that they were enslaved in. These plantations were in the Mississippi Delta, in East Texas, in the Piedmont areas of the South, and it was very hard work. They worked from sunrise to sunset, and there the temperatures are high and run for long periods of time. It's not like here in Illinois, where you have a few days of hot summer. There, 90-degree weather was very common, and they would toil endlessly in the hot sun. So they would sing when they worked. Field hollers, work songs. And we tell the kids when we do this in the schools that they sang just like when we do work. Maybe when you're cleaning your room, you might turn on the radio or some music, or sometimes in school when they're doing an art project or some other kind of work, the teacher might turn on some music, and it helps the time pass. And the same thing was true with the slaves. They did these field hollers and work songs to make their laborious work seem a little bit more easy. On the seventh day of the week, they were made to go to church. And when they went to church, they got exposed to music, church music, which came from Europe. But more importantly, the structure of the music, the verse and the chorus, was the format of the music, and it's something we still use today and are familiar with. But now they had European structured music that they became familiar with. So you combine those three things. One was the church music, two was the field hollers and work songs, and three, you mix in the African rhythms and music, and that became the blues. But this was very disparate. There was hundreds and hundreds of plantations, thousands of plantations, all over the South, and this music just existed in small little ways where people just heard it among themselves. But in 1865, when the slaves were freed, we say the slaves were emancipated, which is we tell the kids is a fancy word for meaning that the slaves were freed. When this happened, the blues started to coalesce, and the slaves got off the plantations. Most of them still farmed, but they had the ability to leave the farms they worked on and to go, or the farms they owned, some of them, and they would go out in town, they would meet, they would have dinner with each other, they would socialize in their homes, or they would have makeshift clubs they put together. They were called juke joints, basically just steel, metal buildings that they could use for parties. Bring somebody in to play music, they would dance, have a good time. And other people started to hear this music, and when other people heard this music, they enjoyed it, and it got adapted and became country music. And it went into the cities like New Orleans, it got adapted, and instruments were added, and it became jazz music. It went up the Mississippi. Around 1900 was when the big migration of people up north began, because the Industrial Revolution was in full swing. And with the Industrial Revolution in full swing, they needed workers to fill the factories and to fill the plants and to fill the steel mills, because there weren't enough people. And the farmers, former slaves who were farmers, and their families saw this as an opportunity for them to make their lives better. They could go work for higher wages and live up north, and they brought their music with them. And in so doing, the blues got transmitted all over the country. And places like Chicago, where Chicago blues arose, guys like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf finally popularized that. But the blues really started there earlier. It started coming up after 1900. It went all over the Midwest and the coast. It became urbanized. It became R&B. We see all kinds of great R&B music that emerged in the cities up north as the blues became more modernized. Motown was a great example. It emerged in Detroit as a record label. Some fantastic musicians that Berry Gordy brought in to make R&B, their version of R&B and soul, something that was crossed into the popular music genres. And then soul music came out of it, and hip hop and other things. All of our popular music came out of it. And all these other kinds of music got very popular, and the blues musicians had less to do here and weren't being hired, so they started traveling overseas. And when they traveled overseas, Europeans fell in love with the blues too, and they adapted the blues for their uses. So not only did rock and roll start down in Memphis with Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and Sun Studios, but when it went overseas, the people like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Dave Clark Five heard it and brought the music back to us. Their sped up version of the blues as rock and roll came back to us too. And then later on, later waves of the British invasion, where Eric Clapton and Cream and Led Zeppelin took the blues and turned it into a harder rock sort of format. So all of our popular music we listen to today comes to us from the blues, which is pretty cool. So what we tell the kids when we go to the schools is we've got Wheatbread Johnson, and he's in a band, and he teaches guitar lessons, and he teaches guitar at Rock Valley College too. But he's here by himself, so can you be the band? So we pass out shaker eggs, and they get to do percussive stuff and some singing and dancing, and as we'll see as we go along, and that they get to be the band. So here on the internet, you can be the band. If you've got some kind of shaker eggs, you can pause this before the next song and first song, and you can get them. If you don't have any shaker eggs, you can take an old water bottle and put some rice or a tin cake or beans or something in it that you can shake and make a noise, or use a tin can with some stuff in it that you can rattle around. So you don't have to be fancy. The blues didn't start with fancy instruments either. So enjoy. We're going to do some songs. We have a little introductory song that we tried out this past spring, and you can enjoy that. And then we'll get into some more program, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes. But without further ado, Blues in the Schools, Internet Edition.